Welcome everyone to today's session. I'm going to introduce myself officially here in just a moment, but if you haven't been with us over the past few weeks, then let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing today. If this is your first time joining us, we're in a brand new series where we're helping folks just like you learn how to market, sell, and lead through this tough time that we're in. And the way we're doing that is through live sessions like this one, where we want to bring you the leading edge thoughts, best practices, methodologies from folks who are living and breathing omni-channel marketing and sales on a daily basis. And if you're wondering, is this going to be for me? We have a lot of agencies here with us. If you work for an agency, Zoom, LinkedIn, Facebook, drop that in the chat. This is for you. If you work for a commercial print organization or a company that's involved in the print space, vendor, supplier, manufacturer, if that's you, drop a yes in the chat. We want to know that you're here. And really for any B2B, business to business, or B2C, business to consumer organization that's trying to communicate with their customers and prospects using digital technology, realizing that the old ways are just becoming increasingly more difficult. I see printers here in Zoom. Awesome. I want to make sure that all of our Facebook and LinkedIn friends are also communicating with us. So drop that in the chat. And if you're in leadership, if you're in marketing, if you're in sales, in any category of organization that I didn't cover there, this is for you. Now, I mentioned that this is one of many workshops like this that we've done. Hello to everybody in Zoom that's jumping in right now. If you look at the screen, there's a few examples of the other sessions that we've done. We had Brian Galad talking about LinkedIn and how he's monetized and derived revenue from his LinkedIn activities. We had Mike Robinson over at Summit Direct Mail talking about how they grew to over 40 million in revenue, orchestrating direct mail campaigns that use omni-channel. Last week, we did 2 workshops in a row helping you improve your LinkedIn profiles, one of our most popular sessions by far, to help you all learn about this optimal channel called LinkedIn. And some of you are actually watching us on LinkedIn right now. And a few weeks ago, we had a training on the social selling playbook, which has a focus on LinkedIn, helping you understand how to create awareness, create conversations, generate leads, close deals from these new omni-channel philosophies and mechanisms. So if you missed any of those, if you want any of these sessions, drop the word recordings in the chat, in Zoom, in Facebook, in LinkedIn. Drop the word recordings like you see here on the screen, and we will follow up with you and get you that. I see Jerry is an agency executive here. Rob is in print. Paul is asking for the recordings. George says they are a printer and they do direct mail. Mark is looking for the recordings. Fantastic, folks. Keep those comments coming in. We will follow up and get all of that to you. A couple more resources I want to make sure you're aware of. Mindfire team, get ready to drop these for everyone, okay? So if this is the first time that we've met, I want to make sure that you connect with me and the Mindfire organization on LinkedIn. So Mackenzie or whoever's dropping URLs, please drop my URL in the chats for everyone. I want to make sure we're connected. And the reason for that is because we invest in bringing you these kinds of sessions, materials, resources, training, thought leadership interviews. And if this kind of information is useful to you, let's get connected so that you can see it on an ongoing basis. That's the first thing I want to give to you. Second, we have a private LinkedIn group specifically for those in the print community. Now, I know we've got folks in other industries here as well, okay? So if you're not in the print community, but you think what I'm about to describe to you might be useful, Suzanne or somebody here on the team is going to drop the links in as well to this private group. This private group we created kind of out of, in response to the COVID-19 situation back in February or March of this year. We get a lot of requests from organizations who need print work, print jobs. They needed partners to fulfill print because their print partners were shutting down or couldn't open or were in lockdown. Now, again, we're going into another period like that here in the United States, at least. And so this is a group that we created 8,000 strong to bring together needs and those who can supply solutions to those needs in an environment where we can facilitate those connections. We don't make any money on it. We just make connections and allow you folks to connect with one another to get what you need during this tough time. So thank you, Mackenzie, for dropping that in. If you want to join that group, go ahead and click that link and you can request access. Somebody on the team will approve you here within the next couple of hours. Lastly, that's my cell phone number there on the screen. Go ahead and throw that in the chat there. The reason why you may want to text me is, especially for those of you who are in marketing, in print, we come across leads all the time. Folks ask us for print work. Folks ask us for agency work. Folks ask us for direct mail, all sorts of things that I know you folks can fulfill. We're a software technology company. We don't do those things. And so we put them in the LinkedIn group, but many of you don't check LinkedIn on a frequent basis. And so what we've started doing is saying, all right, if you want to be notified of these things in real time, text me at that number. All right, you'll be able to opt into our notification list. And when these opportunities arise, whether they're training opportunities or leads, we send out notifications so that you can be aware of that without having to obsessively check LinkedIn the way we do. All right, so if you want that number, my team will throw that there into the chat. If you have questions during the session today, you can also text me. I can see that over here on my right as they come in. Awesome. So with that little prelude there, Mackenzie, I'm going to bring you back on screen here. What do we have cooking today?
Hi, everyone. So if you were here earlier, I was having some technical difficulties, but we're up and running and we're good to go. So just as Dave mentioned, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Today is a topic that we all feel really passionate about. It was one of the topics that I think became or got a lot of press, became more important because of the pandemic. A lot of people are used to generating leads, or they rely on the opportunities that they meet at trade shows or in-person meetings. And because of the shift, because those events aren't happening anymore, a lot of organizations that we talk to are left feeling like, oh no, 30% of my leads that I usually get from fill in the blank, some in-person event, are no longer here. So what do I do? And one of the things that we at Mindfire really strive to do is bring you digital events and sessions like this. But a lot of companies that are doing them are saying, hey, you know what? Cool. Now I've pivoted. I'm doing digital events, but I'm not actually driving opportunities from it. Or shoot, I'm sending lots of emails and I'm inviting people, but I'm not getting a lot of people there. Or I'm getting a lot of people there, but not a lot of people are attending. And so today, the event is all about how to run wildly successful digital events. And wildly successful means you get a lot of people there, the right people there. You get people engaged. You understand what people really want to learn about so you can deliver that content, and you generate tangible opportunities, follow-up events, some conversion event that allows you to actually connect with these people and help them to accomplish whatever it is that you do.
So we always like to start these sessions with kind of the mindset and kind of understanding the headspace that folks need to be in, that you need to be in to apply what we're teaching you here. So Mackenzie, I thought if we can start kind of with that around what's the thought process here so that folks understand the framework, and then everyone will get into showing you the specific steps that we recommend that you look at. And so if you look at the screen here, let me tell you a little bit about how we discovered this playbook for running digital events. And it all started with, if you're looking at the screen, it all started with when we ran trade shows. And we haven't done trade shows this year, as I'm sure is true for all of you. What we found with real life events, face-to-face events, I'm drawing a parallel between face-to-face events and digital events, is that similarly with these real life face-to-face events, we were sometimes struggling to get ROI from those events, meaning we would show up and we just wouldn't generate the return on investment that we needed. Does anybody resonate with that from trade shows? Drop an X in the chat, no matter where you are, Zoom, Facebook, LinkedIn, if you resonate with that. And so at some point, actually Mackenzie was pivotal, I'm making up words already, pivotal in this realization that, look, if we do our job right, look at what it says here on the screen. We believe that we will have won or lost, meaning generated a positive ROI by the time we get to the event. And the way we did this was by ensuring that our pre-event marketing generated enough excitement, enough activity, enough engagement, enough pre-booked meetings. So by the time we got to the trade show, we knew that even if no one else showed up, we would generate a return. Does that make sense, everyone? So here's here's the playbook. Here's kind of the workflow that we created and for real life events, physical events. And it's this insight that then allowed us to apply this same thinking to digital events, which we're talking about today. But I want to start with the backstory so you understand the headspace, okay? So this is kind of how we ran. This was a show. When did we do the show last year? I think it was November or so, right, Mackenzie?
October, United? I think it was October.
So if you look at the screen, folks, I'm going to get my little handy pen out here. This over here on the right-hand side represents the actual event, Printing United. And as I mentioned to you a second ago, our goal was to set face-to-face meetings with folks, either one-on-one meetings or get them to attend an event, a presentation that we did there at the show. And so in order to do that, this, if you consider this a funnel, this was the funnel that we used to get folks in. Let me tell you one or two things about that, and then I'm going to tie that into why that's important to know from a digital event perspective. What we noticed is that if we marketed to the list of folks that we thought were attending, now sometimes you can get that from the show sponsors or show creators, right? If we marketed to them directly and said something like, hey, we're going to be at the event, do you want to have a meeting? The response was usually pretty lukewarm. And we've done that over the years. I'm sure you get hit up with those kinds of emails all the time. So what we said is, why don't we try a different approach? Instead, let's lead with some sort of value that we know is of interest to that part of the market. That's what this signifies here. In other words, instead of hitting them initially with, hey, do you want to meet at the show? We started putting out value to these folks in the form of ebooks, white papers, case studies, sending it to them directly through email, but also in other channels, social channels. And what we found is when we led with these, what we call lead magnets, folks would opt in to download those. And then on the second page of that download, we had a little button that said, hey, by the way, are you attending Printing United? If so, and you want to learn more about X, whatever the theme of that particular piece was, attend our event, or let's set up a time to meet at the show one-on-one. And something interesting happened. What did we start to notice there, Mackenzie?
Yeah, we started to notice that people were highly, highly engaged in the lead magnets, which for us was an indication. It wasn't like, oh, great, lots of leads. It was, hey, we're delivering something that these people care about that's important to them. But furthermore, we started noticing that we were getting appointment requests like hotcakes to meet at the actual digital event. And so that path that Dave just described is the mechanism that we used to kind of get people to know us, know what we're all about before you go in right for the ask, right? And that's a big theme that you've probably heard throughout these sessions that Dave's hosted with a variety of these different leaders.
So with that in mind, what we did is we took that same concept, what worked for us in real life face-to-face events, and wondered, will it work for digital events? That was kind of the question that we asked ourselves as we started to run digital events. And here's what we found. We found that we could employ a similar playbook to that of what we would run for in-person events. And typically they're run like webinars or like Facebook Live or LinkedIn Live. Some of you are seeing us there live in those platforms right now. And as you signed up for this event, if you're in here in Zoom, we asked you, what's your number one question about running events like this? And one of the most common questions we saw, hey, do these things even still work? Are people Zoom fatigued? Are people tired of attending events? Well, I have to tell you, folks, people are definitely still tuning in. We're finding show up rates that are much higher than they were previously. I'm going to share some of that data with you. And the crux of it is that people who like webinars like webinars. So that may sound really simple, but it's actually a very profound thing if you think about it. If you get folks and start to cultivate those within your audience who enjoy learning in this fashion, in this manner, and you keep providing them with additional opportunities to learn about your products and services in that manner, they show up. This is a modality that many people enjoy. So what can it do for your organization? Digital events can create leads. You can nurture existing leads. You can use it to train your audience, your tribe. Many of you are in Mindfire trainings that we provide to our members. And we also do training to prospects as well. The more you can provide this value, like you were saying, Mackenzie, the more you will start to draw people into you. One thing that's very powerful about these is there's actually methods. There are practices that you can learn, you can employ, that are very specific ways of telling a story or of showing material that break false beliefs that your market may have about your product or service or the outcome you can deliver. If you want to know more about that, I'm happy to tell you more about that. It's a psychology and a way of presenting and a way of telling stories that helps break false beliefs. If you have attended any of our webinars, you've probably gone through that without even realizing that that's what we're doing. So if you want to know more about that, happy to talk about that. Also, the other thing we found is that these digital events can act as powerful evergreen engines, meaning that you can do the same event multiple times. You can run it at different times of the day, different days of the week, different times of the month, different audiences, different slants, different titles, different descriptions. In other words, you can put all this work into something and use it more than once in many different ways. And if you are putting that as a video on your website, your corporate site, if you're putting it inside of a drip sequence, there's so many things that you can do to extract significant value from these events. Mackenzie, what about extracting what we call juice from webinars that you might be presenting on, or that you might be invited to speak on?
Yeah, so that's another thing is that, let's just say you're invited to speak on a webinar like this or to be a guest on another session or something like that. We want to encourage you to think of that event or that digital event as an event that you're also hosting and producing. So just as much marketing that you would do to your own event, you should do to that event, right? Because the more people that are going to be there, as long as you're providing value, the better. And so you can actually do the same things that Dave just described, even if it's on someone else's hosted webinar, by asking them for some of the assets or asking them to, hey, can I give this ebook or this helpful supplemental piece of material that goes with the topic, right? And usually hosts are always more than happy to do that. And with that, I think, Dave, maybe we should transition, because I think people say, okay, this is all great. Sounds like you're really liking it, but give us the numbers, right?
Yeah.
Where are the numbers people at?
Go ahead.
So what we did is we took our last 7 webinars and kind of just averaged them. You can see the date and the session topic name, and then the percentages. So, and the amount of RSVPs and attendees. So we're getting, 54, 407, 79, 234. We're getting a few hundred people to register, all the way from, up to 407. And we're getting, above 50% in many of these instances attendees. And as Dave said, usually prior to the pandemic, we were getting around 40 to 50%, depending on the topic. So you can definitely see those numbers lifting. I think that's a mechanism of people being at home, or a function of people being at home, but also a function of, hey, you're providing topics, or you're coaching on topics, or teaching on topics that hit with people that they really want to know about. So, a lot of people think, and I just want to make this point really quick, which is that more attendees equals better. If you're one of those people that thinks more attendees equals better, I encourage you to take that one step further and say, wait a minute, what is the objective of this webinar, right? If we're trying to nurture or teach our existing customers something, or if we're trying to talk about a new product launch, or talk about something that you offer, or a topic that your audience cares about, does more equal better? Because what really we try to think about is, okay, great, we're going to have this webinar and we're going to use it today, and we're going to use it many times to educate. But where the rubber meets the road is when you're able to actually connect after that, right? Where you can have that follow-up conversation, where you can get that person who's interested in learning more to speak with a sales team member. And for us, we like to find our sweet spot of the people that we can actually handle, the volume that we can handle in a timely fashion. If we have this event and we've got 5,000 people here and 1,000 people want to talk to us after, and we don't have the bandwidth to have that high level conversation afterwards, because we just don't have that many team members to support 1,000 people wanting one-on-one calls in the next 2 days, we failed, right? Because at the end of the day, this webinar is an introduction into a topic that people want to dive into. And so I encourage you to try to identify your sweet spot. Ask yourself, how many follow-up meetings can we handle in the next week, right? You got to strike where the iron's hot. You can't tell someone, hey, you learned about digital events, we'll talk to you in 2 months from now, right? So I encourage you to find your sweet spot, kind of like we've been doing.
And you know, you also have to consider like what we're doing here, Mackenzie. Like over here on my right, I'm engaging John R from New Jersey, right, in text.
Yeah.
Over here we've got Facebook and LinkedIn. Over here we have Zoom. Over here we have Ring Central. If you've got too many things going on and you're not used to doing all of this, it's hard to manage the engagement during the live event as well. So for us, this is kind of our sweet spot. If you have any questions about the numbers here on the screen, these are just a few of the events that we've done. If you have any questions about the numbers or anything that you're looking at here, Zoom, LinkedIn, Facebook, drop the question, drop the comment. We want to make sure we answer that, or text me like John's doing over here. All right.
And at the end of the day, it's more than a broadcast, right? We're trying to build and cultivate relationships. And you can only do that if you actually have the time and the bandwidth to be able to cultivate those relationships.
So as you mentioned, Mackenzie, right now, market appetite is high. And so Sylvia saying impressive numbers. Sylvia, thank you. We certainly could do more, but like Mackenzie said, we dial it in to kind of where we can handle the activity. Market appetite is high right now. So I'm saying this to encourage those of you who are thinking, you know what, how are we going to finish the year strong? Or we look like we're going to be okay for the end of the year, but how do we fill our pipeline for Q1? Consider running a digital event or a webinar right now. And especially for us here, it's true in California. I think it's true for many places here in the United States. I think even true for those of you who are in Europe. We're going into this kind of re-lockdown phase, and life is going to be difficult for a while. So these kinds of events where you can connect with your audience in a real, tangible, visceral way, there's still quite an appetite for them. Secondly, I've mentioned this already, but I want to underscore it. It takes a lot of work to do this, yes. But don't think of it as just one and done. There are so many additional ways that you can leverage these events in order to be able to extract maximum value from them. If you're on someone else's webinar, many of the things that we're about to teach you, many of the tactics that we're going to show you still apply. So you could offer to be a speaker on someone else's webinar, let them do 90% of the work, and still get the kind of value that we're talking about here. For some of you, that was a light bulb that just went off, right? Wait, if I offer to be on someone else's webinar and you add value to that discussion, you can get a lot of the juice that we're talking about without having to do all of the other work. One thing that I know is dear to your heart, Mackenzie, maybe you can talk briefly about this, is the amount of time that we need to allocate for pre-event, event, and then post-event follow-up work. What's kind of one of the misconceptions in that area that people sometimes have?
Yeah, so one of the misconceptions is that you do this work, you show up, and then after this hour or 2 hours or however long it takes, that you're kind of done. Right.
Yeah.
And we actually take a different approach. So if you see the percentage breakdowns in the parentheses there, we say, hey, typically around 40% of the work comes from all the pre-show activities, right? Mm-hmm. That's the stuff that gets you here, the content that we share. That's all the activities that get you here. 10% is the actual event. That's the 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours, right, that we spend here with you live. Now, here's the part where people are like, huh? And that's the 50%. That means half of the time is spent on post-show activities. And as we said a second ago, our sweet spot is there because we want to make sure that in the post-show activities, we're able to do the best job that we can to have those conversations and to be able to, again, to create and cultivate that relationship.
So before I go into the framework and I see people asking for some detailed questions around how you actually run these things, pause for a second here. What was the unlock or the aha moment or the new brain connection that you just made as we went through some of those things? Were any of those things surprising to you? Did you learn anything, or did you reconsider perhaps your approach to how you're thinking about webinars or digital events? Drop that in the chat. Go drop it in Zoom. Go drop it over in LinkedIn or in Facebook. Please let us know. Michael, what was it as an example? Tell us what the specific thing was that just connected for you. As we now step into the framework. Anne Maria saying 10% for the event. So the fact that there's like half before and half of the work after, and then the event itself is just 10%. Michael saying I was looking at it as one and done. Yeah. Yep. Understood. Michael, just to that point, you know, all of the events that we showed you that we've done over the past month or month and a half, all of those events were live, held like this one. Sometimes we did them more than once, different segments of the market. But once you do those, now you can take those, and if you have a drip sequence or a nurture sequence for folks that are coming into your organization, into your funnel, into your world, you can take that event, throw it into that drip sequence, right? Maybe it's step 6, maybe it's step 7. That's just one simple way of being able to continue to bring value to your prospects and to your clients and maximize the legs that these things have. Donna's saying post-event activities represent the unleveraged opportunity. Yeah. Craig says, I love the idea of using the event multiple times. Hey, I want to see my LinkedIn and Facebook friends. Mackenzie, if you can engage those folks over there, or Suzanne, whoever's in LinkedIn and Facebook, let's get those folks pumping some ideas as well. All right. Let's look at the framework itself. George is saying, wow, how do you handle the blur as you stay active like you are? George, what blur and what do you mean? A little bit more. We'll answer that question. So look at the screen here. We're going to step through this piece by piece. This is a 50,000-foot view of the digital event framework. I'm going to walk through it right now, very high level, and then I'm going to go through. Mackenzie and I are going to tag team back and forth on each of the parts, okay? So I just want you to kind of understand from the helicopter view what you're looking at here. This over here is what you're in right now, the live event, okay? This process here is how folks get registered for the event. And there's two ways. There's this that I just highlighted here, and then there's this here, okay? And I'm going to describe to you what both of those are. Ultimately, both of those paths get somebody signed up for the event. And between that sign up and the event itself is an engagement sequence, or a series of touches, a variety of different kinds of touches to get folks excited and ready for that event. That makes sense so far? After the event, as we just mentioned, there are a number of activities for your sales operations, your biz dev, your account managers to follow up with the high value conversations. That's what happens over here. Everyone understand what they're seeing? So this is kind of the funnel that brings people to get registered. There are two paths into that funnel. I'm going to break both of those down. Mackenzie and I are going to go back and forth on that. Any questions about what you're seeing here? George is saying the blur of pre-event and follow-up events done once or twice a week. So how do you handle all that? Yeah. So George, to answer your question, I don't do very much of it at all. Mackenzie and her team and a whole staff of people are assigned to different pieces of what you see here. Often I just get to be the dancing monkey on stage, right? But there's a lot of people behind the scenes that all have roles and responsibilities in this process to handle what's coming in. So if you're trying to do this on your own, you don't have to do all of these pieces day one. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here. Okay, so don't worry that you have to do all of these things day one. We just want to open your eyes to what the possibilities are. Craig says that was an interesting visual, Dave. What, the dancing monkey? Good. All right, let's get into those steps. So first is the planning. Mackenzie, you're the planner here. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so from my vantage point, the planning is just, the first step in the process, but a really important step. And so what we typically do is we sort of reverse engineer the steps that we need to take to make sure that by the time the event is there, we're actually ready to go, right? So number one, you want to pick a date and work backwards. That's the first and most important thing. This is one that people are surprised by. You want to obsess over your title, because if people feel like they know what you're talking about, or they say, I know about that, they're not going to show up and they're not going to register, right? So you want to obsess over your title. Dave's going to talk about some ways that you can test different titles, but you want to make sure that it's one that drives excitement and curiosity. Now, here's one that is typically people are like, this makes no sense. But if you think about it, it really does. Start promoting the webinar with the title that you choose prior to finishing the prepared material. So prior to finishing the deck, prior to finishing your talk track. Okay, I'm going to say that again. We want you to start promoting the webinar before you finish the deck and your talk track. Now, Dave, why is that? Why do we want to do that really quick?
Yeah, so it's step 4 here that you have, which is that the framework and the process that we're showing you here actually informs you as to what your registrants are most interested in. So if you look at, for example, many of you signed up through Zoom. If you recall, there was a question there, and we use this all the time. It's a very powerful question. What's your number one, or what's your top question about topic? And when you ask that kind of question of your prospects and your clients of your market, They'll tell you, they'll show you their cards. And you can use that then, what you're saying here, Mackenzie, is you can then use that to improve your material.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, it's that mindset that Dave spoke about, which is you need to kind of get out of, hey, I'm producing events, and go into the prospect or the customer and say, what do they care about, right? Let's use their words. Let's use the topics that they care about and build a performance, build a webinar, build an event that actually speaks to what they're looking to learn. And that's why you want to do it before actually, you finish preparing it. Because if you prepare this whole thing and then and it's all about X, and people say, you know what, right now I'm really interested in Y. Well, now you have to go back and change your presentation, or you're not speaking to them. So that's really important. The next thing is work the process well. And so again, you want to make sure that you are presenting materials in a way that people can consume it. That's inspirational. That's exciting. That's not dull and just reading off the slides, right? And so if you are really invested in the material and you're invested in bringing value to your clients, and you're going to do whatever you can to make sure that it's clear, concise, informative, inspirational, and most importantly, if done correctly, motivates action. And that action motivation is what you need to be prepared for in the follow-up activities, that 50%, right? So let's talk about step number 1, right? We started talking about how important the topic is. So what you want to do if you're like, hey, I want to help these people, but I don't know what to talk about, the first thing you should do is to ask your audience what their biggest challenge with fill in the blank is, right? That's where your business comes in, or that's what you offer. What are they experiencing, right? And often you'll start to hear, oh, our biggest challenge is this, and that's something that you can formulate a topic around. Or perhaps maybe what you want to do is choose a few different topics and poll people on LinkedIn. We've actually had a lot of success in this, and because the polling feature in LinkedIn is not so heavily used, it typically stops people in their track and they actually answer your question. So if you're not sure, choose a few and poll them there. A really successful one that's been happening a lot is an office hours type, where instead of producing a whole event, you talk about a topic, you frame a topic out, and then really you get input from the registrant. So you're asking them a few questions that guide the conversation, or they ask you questions that you use to guide the conversation. This is a big one. When your customers and prospects are emailing you or on the phone with your sales team, or they're interacting with you on social, how many of you just read it and move on? Or how many of you start to collect the common threads, the ideas, the questions? Maybe your sales team each week gives you a list of the things that they're hearing over and over. A lot of people are saying this. That's something that you want to attach to. You want to start listening to those threads, listening to those common ideals, and use that as content that you're going to share. And then most importantly, make sure that you're choosing a topic that you're comfortable with and passionate about, because yes, we have slides. Yes, we do all this preparation. But at the end of the day, if you're not speaking from here, if you're not speaking from a place of passion and experience, I mean, we're talking right now about digital events, which is something that has drastically changed our business, right? And that people literally write a paragraph saying how much that session changed their life. So for us, we're really passionate about this, and hopefully that shines through. But your success in your webinar should come from being authentic to you and what you care about and what you're passionate about.
Preach it. Yeah, very good. Very good point. Well, that's step 1. Let's talk about step 2 now, driving traffic to the webinar registration page, okay? So once you've completed step 1, the planning, you're going to want to build your registration page. And many digital events and webinars that we help our clients with, that we see folks running, fail in this step because the title and the description that they pick for their webinar, this is our view, you can test this, does not drive curiosity. The key to getting those registrations, the key to getting butts in the seat, is to ramp up the curiosity. If folks assume that they know what you're going to talk about, then they tend not to show up. They tend not to register. So if your webinars are not converting, meaning you're not getting people signed up, or people are signing up, but then they're not showing up, or people show up and then they drop out, it's because I humbly submit to you that you're not hooking them enough. You're not ratcheting up that curiosity to get them to think, what is What is Craig talking about? What's Michael referring to? What's George talking about here? What's Sean alluding to? If they think they know what you're going to talk about, that specific insight, what we have found is that they're less likely to show up. Now, here's another strategy that ties into that in terms of promoting the event. This is one we did probably a few months back. Okay, so we're still on the step 2, driving registrations to that event. Okay, you're going to want to use email, of course. You want to use Facebook. You want to use LinkedIn. And here's an example of a counterintuitive way to do it on LinkedIn. Here's the post. Here's the body of the post. You don't have to read it. I'm just going to point out to you what you want to know. This is the image that was beneath that post. Okay. What you don't see in this post here is what? Where are my smarty pants? Want to see LinkedIn or Facebook? Somebody tell me what's missing in this post. Larry says, I need to go. Hope there will be a recording. Absolutely. Thank you, Larry.
What isn't there, Dave? What's missing? If we're driving people to an event, what's missing from there?
Alex,
you go.
Winner, chicken dinner. Thank you, Alex. Absolutely. The link is missing. Right, Sylvia? Absolutely. The link is missing. What the heck? So somebody screwed up on this post? Who was the idiot that did this? Oh, it was me. No. What you want to do, what we have found works well, is you want to start a conversation. You want folks to engage. You want a micro commitment. You want a trial close. We're getting them to drop the word yes. Yeah, you get them to engage by saying yes. Exactly, Alex. Now, if you go out and look at how most people run webinars, most organizations, great organizations, fine organizations, they'll just put the link here. And you can do that. But LinkedIn, if we're talking about LinkedIn specifically, also limits your reach when you do that. So it's better to take this approach, get folks to converse with you, start the conversations. Look, 210 comments, 210 conversations that begin to happen around the topic that you're presenting. Does everyone get that? Drop a yes. I want to see Zoom. I want to see LinkedIn. I want to see Facebook. Give me a yes if you're understanding what we just threw down there. Craig says, brilliant. Michael says, yes. Come on, Facebook and LinkedIn. Huge, says Rich. Now, Mackenzie, should you just post once, or what should you do in terms of promoting this? And what if you get scared that, hey, if I post about this twice, everyone's going to hate me?
Yeah, this is a big one that we hear, not just with posting about digital events, but anything. Let's just give you a 30-second overview of how these social media platforms work, right? So social media platforms work is in the way that they want to keep you, me, everyone that's there in their platform, right? Now, if they showed you the same post over and over and over and over and over again, and you scrolled through your feed and all you heard about or all you were shown is the same post by the same person, would you stay in the platform? No. So the way that they actually run the platform is in a way where they learn about you. They consume content from what you like, what you don't like, what you comment on, what you engage with, right? And what you shy away from. And they show you content that will resonate with you. So instead of thinking, oh no, I'm scared someone's going to see this post more than once, think, I need to post as much as possible because my post is not going to be shown a million times over to the same person unless that person loves what you do, right? Unless you've shown, like for me, even me, I go to Dave's page regularly, right? I comment on all the stuff. I engage with it. Obviously, we work hand in hand. And I still don't see a full post feed of Dave, right? I still have to go to his page and look for posts that he's done. So anytime you're wondering if you are over posting, I encourage you to switch up your thinking and say, wait a minute, I'm just getting in my own way. I should continue to post because more posting and more engagement means more eyeballs.
Absolutely. So let me show you examples of how to create a landing page, referencing the framework that we had on the screen a second ago, that drives maximum opportunity for you. First couple of things I want to point out to you here. They're already articulated here on the screen. Think about the flow chart. Let me actually go back and just make sure you know where we stand here on the flow chart. So if you look at the screen, we're going to start here, okay? And we're starting here with offering a lead magnet. We're not saying, hey, sign up for the webinar. We're not going directly for the webinar sign up. Okay, that's a key difference here in what I'm about to show you. Yes, you can do that, and that's this flow here. But right now, I'm starting with the lead magnet. In other words, adding value first before asking them to sign up for the webinar. Okay, so that's what we're seeing on this page here. And when they get to that lead magnet, when they download that lead magnet, the image is one that we usually test. There are ways to do that very quickly with Facebook, as an example, Facebook ads, dynamic ads. We use what we call proof in the lower left-hand corner, and we'll give you a list of these utilities. This shows the person on this page some social proof around how many other people are engaging with this particular asset. And we have live chat. Sometimes people have trouble filling out a form and they need to talk to somebody. So we include live chat. We also give them an opportunity in some of our pages to get off the highway, get off the freeway, take an off-ramp, and actually go straight to, hey, yeah, I want to see a demo of Mindfire. Tell me more about this software. Some people say no, some people say yes. And so if you embed that in this form, you have an opportunity to get people to the next step for your particular situation, whatever that might be. So somebody fills in the form, clicks this button, and the next page they see says, thank you. The ebook, the PDF, the white paper is headed to your email. And you can't see this, but I'll tell you kind of the spirit of what's here. And by the way, if you're interested in that topic, whatever the lead magnet's about, you're really going to want to attend this workshop, this webinar, this session. It's happening in so many days. Here's who's speaking. Here's what you're going to learn. One-click sign up. Could you take people directly to a page like this? Yes. But what we have found, and you should test it for yourself, is that you can get more signups, more quality signups by doing what we're describing here, which is offering something in front of that webinar signup. Now, when somebody clicks save my seat, claim my spot, they go to a thank you page. This is an example that we pulled from one of ours. Again, a lot of opportunity is missed on what we call the thank you page. Most people will say, hey, your seat's saved. You know, here's your reminder, add it to your calendar. What we find is this is a good place to continue building rapport, familiarity with the presenters, either through video, maybe offering them a next step, a free trial, in our case with our software, right? So don't lose the opportunity to use this thank you page to take folks to the next step. One of the things that you often say, Mackenzie, what's the buyers in motion phrase that you use?
Yeah, a buyer in motion is a buyer continued, right? If you interrupt that buyer, you've now broken that train of thought, right? And so you want to keep someone on the same thread and give them the opportunity to continue to get to know you, continue to that relationship. And one thing I really just want to quickly interject here is if you noticed from the lead magnet, so when someone said, hey, I see, yep, right there, that 5 reasons why, or the overview of the LinkedIn profile, and they fill in their information, they now have that lead magnet. Did you notice that we had a one-click sign up? So I think Dave kind of quickly skimmed over that, but what that means is that we did not ask people again to sign up for the webinar. If they just filled in a form telling us who they are to get that lead magnet, we're not going to make them fill out another form, right? Increased friction in your marketing means decreased conversion. How can you make that flow for them easy to continue?
Yep. Savannah says, yep, that's cool. All right. So for everybody, give me a 1 in the chat, please. Over in LinkedIn, I need to see the ones coming in from you folks in LinkedIn. Give me a 1 in Zoom if you're getting what we just described here. That's this part of the flow here. I want to make sure you guys are all engaged and you're seeing this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this portion here. This is when you drive folks directly to the webinar sign up, which you can also do. Okay, I'm showing you both. What we have found, again, is that you need to drive curiosity. You need to create some urgency, some scarcity. And I know that not everybody is comfortable doing these things. I know that not every brand can express itself this way. I understand that. But open your mind to some of the other possibilities. So the ways we do that, we use headlines that are tested, headlines that ratchet up curiosity. We create some urgency by having a countdown timer or countdown clock on the screen. We do limit the number of seats. That is intentional. We do have a limit in Zoom, and also it creates some scarcity around how many folks are going to attend. And you'll notice if you read this, and you don't have to read it now, but we don't tell people exactly what it is they're going to take away. We see that in a lot of webinar descriptions. And again, the psychology behind that is when the human brain sees that, they say, I already know what this is about. I don't need to sign up for this, right? Whereas you open that loop. Look at this one. How a completely different approach to lead gen took us from broke to growing in a recession. No idea what the approach is. How did they do that, right? I don't know what they're talking about. I need to go to find out. And now once somebody submits on that page, again, they come back to this thank you page, like the one I just showed you a second ago. Okay? So that's this flow here. It ends up at the same spot as if you had come here. Okay? Is everyone getting this? Everyone understand? I want to make sure everyone's following along. Yeah, I see the confirmations coming in. So step number 3, Mac, between that time when people register, let me go back here, right? And this live event, a bazillion things can get out of the way. How do you keep people engaged?
Yeah, so this is another area of opportunity because we see a lot of people not doing these plays or running these plays. So once someone signs up, right, the next milestone is to learn, right, from them what they're interested in so that you can build, but then also to get them this. So here's what we do. Number 1, engage your registrants with a simple question, 1 or 2, such as what caught your eye about whatever the topic is, or what's your number 1 question related to fill in the blank, lead generation, or whatever the topic is that you're talking about, right? One simple question, make it easy. And again, as we spoke about, use the data, the feedback that you collect from the answers to that questions to build the content of the webinar, right? That's when you start to realize, oh, this is what's really important to people. So let's make sure we get that in the deck. Next thing is you want to send emails, videos, chats. If you're texting with people, you want to text with them, right? Because you want to keep the engagement and the excitement high. Remember, an object in motion stays in motion. So you want to keep them engaged so that they're really looking forward to that session. Next thing is people say, well, how do you have time in the day to be sending millions of emails, right?
Like George was asking that question, right? How do you do all of this? Yeah.
How do you do all that? And our secret to doing that is to automate as much as you can, but make it look human. And then I'm going to take this one step further. Once someone responds, then you actually engage with them. So we use automation to get people excited and to get them to respond. Once they respond, then a human, Dave, me, Suzanne, all the team members that we have actually build that conversation. Next is, this is a key one. You want to engage the high value registrants one-on-one to drive attendance and interaction. So those are the people that you say, your sales team says, oh my gosh, I've been trying to get in front of fill in the blank for such a long time. And they haven't returned my phone calls. They haven't responded to my LinkedIns. They haven't actually responded to my emails. When you see them register for your events, make sure that the person who's been reaching out to them acknowledges that, thanks them, right? Because now they've engaged with you. So again, you want to continue that relationship.
Great question from Savannah talking about promotion in advance of the event. So I think I'm going to take that right now. Savannah, you're asking if you're promoting the event prior to having all the info for it, right? All of the deck and all the talk track and all of that. How do you create the landing page with your secrets to promote it if you don't have all the material yet? So Savannah, I'll answer how we do this. We plan this out by trying to understand, okay, what's the core of what it is we want to talk about, right? We kind of have a general idea of what the topic is, one topic. And then we don't need to create the material. We start with, okay, what's the headline? What's the subheadline? And what are 3 things that we can share and hook people in with that we can then reveal inside of the material itself, okay? So it kind of starts there. Most people kind of go the other way around. They create all of the material and then they create the description of the webinar. We start with, and I think Bob said this earlier, if you've ever sold advertising, many of these concepts are similar. We kind of look at it through that lens. How are we going to hook people? How are we going to get people excited? And then let's create the content to fulfill that appetite. Okay. Mackenzie, let's hold Paul's question. If you could just remember that one. I don't want to lose track of yours, Paul. Yeah, Savannah, hope that helps for you. So Mackenzie, let's talk about reminders now. So you talked about, the automation and the human to human interjection of of people into the process, what kind of reminders do we send?
Yeah, so these are the ones that we send and we have seen to be successful. You want to send a reminder 24 hours before. Again, between the time that someone registers for your event and the actual event, if there's more than one day in between, things, change. Schedules get busy. So you want to remind them a day before so they can make sure it's on their calendar. The morning of, often, right? Hey, don't forget, in an hour from now, this is what we're going to do, or in 3 hours from now. And then, of course, you definitely want to hit them an hour before. Again, they are probably, you're nearing to the event, so you want to have your reminders more frequent. And then what we do often is 15 minutes before. Now, Dave, if we can, let's give them a little pro tip here.
Yep.
Oftentimes, people either choose, only to send reminders through Zoom, or they only send reminders one-to-one via email. Now, here's the thing. If you're only choosing one path to send those reminders, you're missing a big opportunity. As everyone knows, nowadays, it's more challenging than ever to get in inboxes, right? And so let's just say that your Zoom reminder went to the promotions folder and that person didn't see it. Well, then they might not actually show up to the event. So what we do is we make sure to send reminders from our email, right, through our system that we send emails from, and have the Zoom reminders. Because again, if one of those routes gets trapped in, promotions folder or something like that, gets filtered out, you still want to make sure you're there. Yeah, absolutely. Alex, thank you so much. Alex just said he got the 1 hour reminder before and that worked for him. He had forgotten about the event.
Yep, exactly. All right, so let's talk about step 5, which is presenting live, like we're doing right now, right?
Right now.
What's that?
I said right now.
Right now. Now, this is something that is a skill. It's something that you can learn to do. It's something that you're not going to be necessarily good at day one. All right. And I'm just curious, how many of you are, be honest, how many of you are scared to present? Tell me in Zoom. Tell me in Facebook. Tell me in LinkedIn. John R., who was texting me, text me. Are you scared? Do you have trepidation? Do you have concerns? Do you have worries? Maybe you think, I'm not funny. I'm not smart enough. I can't talk well enough. Dar says, definitely. Wafa says, of course. Anybody else? Be honest. Paul says, I'm not scared, but not energetic. George says, you both do it so well, but the fear holds me back. Craig says, Dave totally has a gift for this and is a role model to follow. Well, Craig, it's a lot of hard work. Michael says, of course, yes. So here's a couple of tips. One is you need to be high energy. Now, in my normal life, I'm not high energy. I'm not like this. I don't walk around my family being like, all right, guys, you got this. That's not me, okay? Despite contrary to popular belief. What I do and what I'm doing right now, what McKinsey's doing right now, feels inside about 1.5 times to 2 times our normal excitement level. And when you do that, on the inside, it's going to feel strange. It's going to feel manufactured if you haven't done that before. But when you do that 1.5 to 2x your normal energy level, it comes across as decent energy, good energy. Does that make sense? So inside, you're going to feel a little odd, but on the outside, it appears about right. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about, and Craig is laughing at me, no problem, is you have to learn a couple of engagement techniques. One is a trial close. Many of you know what that is. But from the perspective of running an event like this, what it is asking your audience questions. If you notice, I keep you engaged. You all agree with that? You all understand? Do you get what we're saying? Does that make sense to you? You hear me asking questions where 95% time, the answer is yes. I'm trying to get you to nod your heads. Sandy, does that make sense? I even ask you to type the word yes, right? I'm getting you to nod your head. And if you think back to the LinkedIn post I showed you, what was the word that I had you drop in that example that we had on the screen? It was yes, right? That's very intentional. Now, it's not easy to do all of this live. We've gotten pretty good at it. I'll show you what it looks like behind the scenes here in just a second. All the screens, all the monitors, all the technology. It's helpful if you have somebody incredibly talented like McKinsey on the other end, right? We've also got a team that's in Ring Central. That's our internal communication tool. that's running a lot of the plays, it's helpful to have multiple people. But if you don't, that's okay. You can start with just one. Having multiple monitors, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 in front of me right now. I'll show you. Having 4 monitors is very helpful. If you're just trying to do this all off one little monitor, it's hard. Now, we also use a technique called opticasting. It's a piece of software called restream.io. We're going to give you a list of all of these. And what that allows you to do is fan out your Zoom. We're using Zoom right now to Facebook and to LinkedIn and other social channels. So the friends that are seeing us in LinkedIn, the friends that are seeing us in Facebook right now are seeing us through restream.io. So you connect your Zoom to Restream, and Restream fans out to those other social channels. Does that make sense, everyone? Give me a yes if you're understanding all of these that I just laid out here for you. Now, Mackenzie, you asked me to include this little snapshot here, right?
Yes.
So,
everyone wants a peek behind the curtain.
Okay, no problem. It's a little messy. Didn't have time to prepare the area. But this is kind of what I see. Actually, it's missing one monitor, my comfort monitor. This is kind of what I see, okay? Let me tell you what you're seeing here. You're seeing restream.io. So what it's doing is it's pulling in chat from Facebook and LinkedIn. I can see folks over there chatting without having to have all those windows open. I have my speaking notes directly in front of me. So I am looking at notes I've made for myself. My camera is up here, right up here, okay? My preview of what I'm actually broadcasting is over here to my right. Over here on this monitor, I'm seeing the attendees list. I'm seeing who's here, running polls, looking at the chat from Zoom. I'm looking at SMS from like my friend John who's texting me, okay? I can see that over there. And then I also have our internal back channel. So I've got Ring Central, I've got Suzanne, I've got a bunch of people on the Mindfire staff that are behind the scenes running plays and helping us do things. Down here on this little monitor down here, the laptop, is where the presentation, what you're seeing on the screen, it might be up or down or to the left of me, that's where that's coming from, all right? Here, can you see it right here, are the Zoom controls. That's what I use to control Zoom. And here is my mic. That makes sense, everyone? Any questions about what you're seeing there on the screen? Savannah says I have to pop off, but I'll watch the rest of the recording. Great stuff. Savannah, I'm glad. I'm glad it was helpful to you. Now, Mackenzie, if someone looks at this and says, holy cow, I can barely walk and chew gum at the same time. How am I going to do this? You asked me to also include this. Talk about what you see here.
Yeah, perfect. So I always like to say, you know, where we are right now in our digital event journey, let's call it, we're doing them weekly, right? And so I think it's great to get a behind the scenes peek into what an area like Dave's looks like, right? But at the same time, we want to make this tangible for you. We want you to leave this session feeling like, wait, I can do this, and here's how I'm going to do that. So here's the basics of what's required. And so if you're new to this, here's where you want to pay attention. First thing, you got to have a laptop for presenting the slides, right? That's one of the key things, and Dave's circling it there, right? The second thing is that you want to have a screen for seeing your speaking notes, because if you have the presentation here and then the speaking notes are over here, well, now everyone's looking at the side of your face, right? So you want to make sure that's close and in line with your presentation. The second thing or the third thing is, this isn't necessary, but I think it's important, is to have what's called a comfort monitor. So a comfort monitor is just a computer or a screen to the side. You can even use an iPad or something like that, which allows you to log in as an attendee. So instead of logging in as yourself, log in as an attendee so you can see what everyone else on the other end sees. That way you can be confident, okay, I know that we're presenting here. I know the slides are advancing.
Yeah.
Next thing is
this thing on, right? You're like,
yeah,
yes,
is this
thing is on.
Am I talking to anyone?
Yeah.
Is anyone there? The next thing is you can have a mic for an iPhone. That works fine. So you can see, I think it's probably somewhere. Yeah, there we go. We have the corded earbuds and microphone. This is, I'd say, almost the most important one. Circle that hardwired internet, Dave. Yeah. So the worst thing you want to happen is this, right? So if your Wi-Fi goes out, you want to make sure that you're hardwired so that you can continue to have this seamless conversation. Again, we want to keep people in motion. So if you're having a great conversation and then you freeze, right? It kind of throws people off. So that hardwire is really important. Somewhere quiet, right? You don't want lots of background noise. Although I would say, nowadays, because everyone's working from home, it's a little less important, but try to get somewhere quiet so that you can focus and be here with your audience. And then some coffee. He's got his coffee cup there. Coffee is really important to me. Maybe you drink tea, but something there to get you energized and keep you there.
So Craig mentions it's good to have a backup computer in case something happens to the primary. That's another good use for the comfort monitor as well, just in case something happens there. And my wife would kill me if she saw this, but you can see, look at all the dust here on the lamp stand, right? So it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody sees that. All they
Julie,
see is
don't tell
right
Sarah.
Yeah, I won't tell her. Yep. Thank you.
No, I told Julie not to. She might back channel you.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. So that's what you're seeing there, folks. That's a little bit of behind the scenes. Now we're in the follow-up stage. Okay, so we've gone through all the aspects leading up to here. And now we're going to go into right here and then open up for more questions to make sure that you get what you need out of this and can start to do this on your own. So Mackenzie, why don't you talk about some of the best practices now in terms of follow-up after an event?
Yeah, so after the event, people, again, they're excited. They want more, right? So you want to keep that attention high and you want to keep that conversation engaged. So first of all, you want to send an email. You want to post on social, right, to the attendees, the people that were there, asking them, what would you like to do next? You just attended the event. What's next for you, right? Now, notice how I didn't just say send them the recording. Instead, you want to ask them what they'd like so that you can gauge their interest and then again, deliver that to them. Do you want the slides? Do you want the recording? Do you want the one-on-one call? Again, put the power in the prospect or the attendee or the customer so that they can respond to you and you can get them that. Now, here's the other thing. Not only does it allow you to keep the conversation, but it provides really good data, right? It shows you who's interested and who's engaged so that you can provide that information to your sales team or whoever it is that follows up with them. The next thing you want to do is communicate with people who didn't make it, right? You can do everything you can to get people there, but if something comes up, right? So you still want to give those people love too. So ask them, looks like you missed the event. Would you like the recording? Again, we're not just sending the recording, we're asking them if they want it. And then again, this is also going to gauge their interest so that you can have that information. This one is a big one, and I think that people miss this opportunity. As we said, 50% of the work comes after the event. You want to divvy the list of registrants and attendees to your sales team so that they can focus on the people that they already have a relationship with, right? So if you do territory sales, or if you do an account management style, or if, Sarah spoke to Suzanne on our team below, you want to keep that relationship, right? So you want to divvy that list beforehand so that you can find the diamonds in the rough in those attendees and in those registrants. And most importantly, you want to keep the continuity. So if you are a sales rep and you spoke to someone, make sure you're the person following up, right? And by distributing the list, you're able to do that. Right? As we say here, a prospect in motion is a forward-moving prospect. You want to make sure to continue to engage with those people.
So you'll also find that you can extract more interest in more conversation if you create a blog post. And most of you do this, but in case you're not doing this, you would be served by creating a blog post or some area of your website where you have a summary of what was covered in the event. And again, don't tell them everything, right? Crank up the curiosity in those bullet points or in that description of the event, embed the video, maybe from YouTube as an example, extract the audio for something like SoundCloud so that if you like to, listen to podcasts, you have a way to just listen to the audio. People do that. And include the slides. Like I see my friend Alex saying, man, I need these slides. So many good tips, right? So you want to include the slides as PDF so people can go and download those. And then have a call to action for those that want to take the next step and talk more about what you presented or the things that you went through. Have some sort of call to action that enables someone to take the next step with you. All right. So that's what we recommend in the follow-up over here. And you might think at this point, right, Mackenzie, okay, we're done. But I want to underscore something that we said at the very beginning. One of the areas where people tend to fail to maximize their investment. Where is that, Mackenzie?
Oh, sorry, I was answering someone there. Yep. So what you want to do is you want to, as Dave says, take the show on the road, right? If you just spent all this time producing, That's not it, right? You want to keep it going. And so you want to squeeze as much juice from this session as you can. So run it live multiple times, different days, different times. You may not know this, but Dave and I have run a webinar about digital events before. And if you look at the people who showed up today, who registered today, there are hundreds of other people who registered today who didn't even know that we've done this before, right? So again, you want to make sure you're maximizing it. And yes, make sure to create an evergreen or just-in-time version of it so that you can actually have people watch it at a time that's good for them. Like we have someone here that it was 1 a.m. in Tokyo for them, right? Yep. But maybe they want to come back and they're like, okay, great. This is something important to me. I want to watch it, but I'm going to go to sleep now, right? So you want to make sure that people can watch it at a time that's good for them. Again, value through their eyes, right? Not necessarily through yours.
Get those questions ready, folks. We're going to do Q&A here. We're going to stick around and answer all your questions. But Mackenzie, I know that you had mentioned you thought it would be helpful to give folks a list of kind of like our tech stack, all of the different things that we use in case people are interested. Yes. So we're going to bring that up here on the screen, and then we're going to get into your questions. So Mackenzie, just briefly walk us through all the things that we're seeing here.
Yeah, and Jerry asked a question, what software are we using for our slides? So this is perfect right up your alley, Jerry. We're going to answer your question right here. So as Dave mentioned, big question we get, what do you use to power this? So here's a list of our tech stack that we use. So to host the event, we use Zoom. Again, with Restream.io, which as Dave mentioned, allows you to fan that out to other channels. You want to allow people to consume your content wherever they most prefer, right?
Okay. And Mackenzie, I think you're having one of those internet connectivity issues that we mentioned earlier. Hopefully everyone can still hear me. Drop me a yes in the chat if you can still hear me. The other thing we use is what we call use proof. And we see that, or you'll see that in the lower left-hand corner of some of the sign-up pages where it says, Craig just signed up from San Diego, or you'll see, Dave from Orange County just signed up. So that's a utility called Use Proof. That's something that you can also hook up. We have something called Hello Bar. Mackenzie, are you back? Hello?
Yep, I'm back.
Yep. Oh, you're back in effect.
Yes. So we use Hello Bar. That's a great way to market your session to the people who are visiting your website. Again, squeeze as much juice as you can. Next thing is our landing page software. So all of the pages that you saw right there, yep, in the bottom right. So the place where you had the welcome page for the lead magnet, the thank you page, the webinar confirmation, the areas where we have videos to you where Dave's talking about, hey, here's what you're going to experience. You want to use a landing page that allows you to capture those leads and share the information that you're sharing with them, that content with your audience. So of course, we use Mindfire. That's our software. If you have any questions about it, let us know, as well as email software. Again, you wanna make sure that you are obviously marketing via email to your audience and to your database. Make sure that the email software you're using is getting your emails in inboxes, right? You wanna make sure that you're not just sending, but that people are actually consuming it. And then this one's for you, Jerry. So we use Google Presentation for the slides. So that's, the place that we use. One of the questions he had was, hey, well, what if you share something different? In the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a little present button. When you hit present, it allows you to actually do presentation mode, which focuses the screen only on your slide. So that's a little unlock there for you, a quick tip. And then, yeah, we use Demio for evergreening. So there's different softwares. We find Demio to be very helpful. As Dave mentioned, we're not affiliated with any of these technologies. We don't get paid from them. This is just stuff that we use that makes it easy for us. And in the spirit of wanting you to be able to take this information and go and run your own event, we want to share with you the stuff that we use.
And I see a great question from Ian over there on LinkedIn. Ian, I just replied back to you. We'll get that here in a second. Mackenzie, we also have a checklist to help folks get ready for events like this. So if you want this checklist, just drop the word checklist in the chat, whether you're in Zoom or LinkedIn or Facebook, and our team will follow up with you on all of this. All right. Get those questions ready. Okay. I see the checklist coming in. Fantastic. We're happy to get that to you. Get those questions ready. If you'd like to learn more about what we've gone through today, if you want to learn more about how to run or execute a digital event or webinar like the ones that we've just reviewed today, all the different steps, I want to give you some tangible next steps if you want some help, okay? So here's what we've done. We've set aside time in the next week And I know we have a short week next week, so spots are limited.
Spots?
That's another word, second new word of the day. Spots are limited. But if you want to talk one-on-one with us, all right, about how to, for example, come up with ideas, messaging, or content, like what should I even be presenting to my clients? I can't even think of what I should be talking about. We can help you with that. We'll talk it through with you. If you're a client of ours, that's part of the service that we offer you. If you're not a client, we're still happy to talk to see how you could consider running a digital event that's going to be resonant with your audience. So that's one thing we can do. Second, if you don't know how to run an event like this, I showed you all the tech stack. We showed you how to do this. We showed you how to put together. If you don't know how to run this A to Z, we can help you with that as well. We'll talk that through with you and see if that's something that we can help you with, or maybe just point you in the right direction. And again, this is a one-on-one conversation just between us and you and your team to get you where you want to be. And then thirdly, if you like how we present, if you like how we run these events and you want us to co-host an event with you, or present or moderate an event for you, or interview you or a client, help you run an event, we're fairly good at this. We can help you do that as well. All right. So there's no obligation to talk. We just want to make that available to you as a next step. Mackenzie or Suzanne,
I'm ready.
why don't you go ahead and drop that link here on the screen, mindfiremarketing.com/yes. I see Karen saying, Dave, M. Mars wants to chat next week. Okay. Awesome. Mindfiremarketing.com/yes, Karen. If you don't mind, go there. Let us know what's on your mind. Very short form. And we'll set that up, and we'll make sure that we get that conversation going with you. So if you can drop that, Mackenzie, or folks, you can see it there on the screen, mindfiremarketing.com/yes. Thank you, Mackenzie. Perfect. And again, just to clarify who this is for, if you're wondering, should I jump on this call? Can Mindfire help me? If you're in leadership, if you run marketing, or you're in marketing, you're a sales professional, we can help you with these kinds of events. If you want to understand, is running an event going to help me? Maybe you have doubts. Can this actually do what I need it to do? Or maybe you want to know more about how these actually work in real life for an organization like yours. Or if you want to know, how do I actually run the mechanics of this thing? How do I get this up and running? What does it take to get it done? If you fall in any one of those buckets, we'd love to have that one-on-one conversation with you. And Mackenzie just threw the link in there. Go take a moment. You can turn me down. You're not going to miss anything. Fill in that little form, and we'll get it scheduled for you. Basically, the idea is to help you take this framework that you see here on the screen and help you understand how to get the best possible results in the shortest amount of time. And, like I said, we've done a few of these, so we know what we're doing. I see Rich just filled in a form. He wants to learn more about our software, brainstorm how to build webinars for the services that they offer. Rich, happy to talk to you. Thank you for filling that in. Like I said, if it's content ideas that you need, if you don't know how to run these events, but you think that this would serve you and your audience, or if you want our help in presenting, Mackenzie, I think you just brought somebody new on board who wants to do a webinar with us. Maybe just talk for a moment about what that looks like. What is that?
Yeah, so we're super excited. We had someone who actually came through some of our trainings before and said, okay, I really like all this and I want to do it. But quite honestly, they had a few fears. Number one is they had never run a digital event before. And the mechanics they wanted help with actually setting it up. So they wanted us to guide them through that. But they also wanted us to help moderate the event for them, because he said, look, I know my craft, right? And as we said, talk about something you're passionate about. He's passionate about the subject, but he said, for my first one, instead of having to try to moderate and talk about what I'm passionate about, can you help me out? So we're actually going to help moderate his event. We're going to help him produce it, and we're going to help him market it, because at the end of the day, he's like, I don't even know how I would get 400 people to sign up.
What industry is that in, Mackenzie? Remind me.
Yep. 3D printing.
3D printing. Okay. So Michael H is saying, I see how this could help my nonprofit, but not sure how it would feed the need for 2D print, but open to ideas. Yeah, Michael, we'd love to talk. Go fill in that short form. Will help you understand the opportunities. Again, mindfiremarketing.com/yes. I give you permission to turn me down. I want to open up to questions, but just real quick, if you're like me and data and numbers and logic, if you will, are what gets your brain turning, I want to share with you some information here around why running events like this is more important than ever. From my perspective, from our perspective here at Mindfire, and from the customers that we get to work with, 80%, this was in a recent survey done by LinkedIn, over 500 sales professionals, 80% said they have somewhat or completely shifted to virtual selling, virtual conversations like the ones that we're having due to COVID-19. Of those, 57% believe that this new model is better than what we used to do in the past, and almost half expect to continue selling this way beyond the next year. And so my argument to you is designing a sales model that embraces events, digital events, omni-channel isn't just a nice to have. It's imperative. And I think if you act now, if you're thinking to yourself, have I missed the boat here? You know, there's so many webinars already going on, or I don't see how it could work for me. I want to encourage you in your area of specialty, in your area that your company services your customers in, and the things that you're passionate about. If you act now as an organization, you can have a significant competitive advantage, because those that don't face this reality of how the world has changed, I think are going to run a risk of being left behind. And so if you think about it this way, and if you think about the fact that even before the pandemic, the divide between buyers and sellers, us on the sell side, buyers, our customers and prospects, if you think about, there was already a divide there. Think about what's happening now. That divide is even wider, right? So this moment calls for a new model. That's the omni-channel marketing and sales model that we've been talking about, and digital events is one part of that. So that's why we believe this is so important. If you have questions about how to run it, we're here to help. We're going to stick around now, Mackenzie and I, for as long as it takes here. Answer your questions, drop those into the chat. If you want to set some time to talk one-on-one with us and our incredible team, mindfiremarketing.com/yes. I see some of you have already filled that in. Fantastic. Mackenzie, let's do this. Let's take some questions. Fire away.
Let's do it. Before we do that, though, I just want to make one point. Is I talk to a lot of organization leaders on a daily basis. And one of the most common things that I hear is with their marketing, Mackenzie, we want to position ourselves like a thought leader.
Okay.
Absolutely. But you can't tell your prospects and customers you're a thought leader, right? That is a conclusion that your prospects and customers need to come to on their own from getting value from you, from seeing you lead, from seeing you educate, from seeing you drive content that's relevant, right? And so one of the ways that you can do that is to run digital events where they see you talking about print, talking about software, talking about your nonprofit, talking about automotive, whatever it is that you do, however you help your prospects and customers, if you're talking about it and you're producing content on it, that's how they formulate that opinion. And I just want to tell a story that we started working with a company back in March who said they want to be a thought leader. They have run a digital webinar every single month since March. They never did it before. Okay. Every single month. And they are doing such an incredible job. I'm so proud of them. They are getting in front of huge organizations that they never could connect to, that their salespeople said, I could never get in front of them. So if you want to position yourself in that way, I encourage you to actually take a step, do the act, right? Start positioning yourself, get content out there, put yourself out of your comfort zone and run events like this. With that encouragement, let's go over some questions. We had one early on before that I want to make sure we circle back to. Paul R., this one's for you.
Okay.
So the question is, let's say I have a product or solution and I want to market it via Facebook because it's a B2C product. Do you have a solution or roadmap for that? So Dave, maybe you want to bring up that framework again.
Sure. And you know what? Let me be a bit of a polemic on this, or offer you a little bit of a counterpoint. Who did you say that question was for?
Paul.
Okay. So Paul, you know, it's interesting. There are more B2C marketers on Facebook successfully targeting the consumer. I'm sorry, LinkedIn. I said Facebook.
Yep.
There are more B2C organizations on LinkedIn targeting consumers than you may think. So I wouldn't rule out LinkedIn as a possibility, especially if there's not a lot of competition there yet for B2C. That's part of what we teach in omni-channel, the philosophy around finding where your customer's attention is that's underpriced, kind of that arbitrage, okay? But to that point, in terms of Facebook, yeah, I would recommend running pretty much this entire playbook can be run and powered and facilitated by Facebook. Mackenzie, do you think there was a specific question around some Facebook mechanics that we haven't answered there?
No, I think maybe Facebook was squeezed in between email and LinkedIn, so it wasn't as visible there. But yeah, so Paul, just to answer your question, we run all these plays on email, Facebook, and LinkedIn, as well as other places. Again, your goal is to find where your tribe is and get your message there. So we absolutely think that's a good idea. And one last point in terms of B2B versus B2C, who are the people that work at the B? People.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
as Dave said, even if you are marketing to consumers, people who work at businesses are your consumer as well. So you might have, might be talking to a less crowded room there, which might actually be helpful for you. Okay, next
Mackenzie,
question.
we had questions in LinkedIn too. You saw those from like Ian? I don't want to miss his.
Yep, we'll go through all those. Yep, I won't miss the Q&A today as well.
Yeah, good for you.
So a question we're getting pretty commonly is, how far out should you start promoting your event?
Yeah, it's a good one. So let me tell you my opinion, and then Mackenzie, you can talk about yours. So folks, we've been running these, as you know, every week, roughly every week. And honestly, we start promoting about 4 days out. And it works.
Say
Others,
what?
yeah,
4?
I know. It's crazy, huh? Others do 2 to 3 weeks out. If you haven't done these a lot, I would say do the 2 to 3 weeks. Get your muscles worked out, start to stretch, get limber, 2 to 3 weeks. But what we find generally is the further out you start promoting, meaning let's say you do it 4 weeks back, the people that sign up back there, you have a long time between that and the webinar. Interest could change. The work that they're doing could change. The issues that they have could change. The world could change, right? So the further back you go, generally we find those people don't actually tend to get to the event. And so when we're doing events, it's usually 2 weeks max, 1 week of promotion. That's just us. Mac, do you have any counterpoint from any clients you've worked with?
No, I was just going to say there's typically 2 camps. There's the 3 weeks before or the 4 days before. Like Dave mentioned, you got to find what's right for you, what's right for your audience, and what's right for your team. But if you're new to it, start before so you have ample time to get that feedback. For us, collecting feedback from when people, say, when we ask them what their question is and putting that into the deck, we do that pretty quickly now, but that might take you time to get in that rhythm.
Yep.
Okay, next question, and I will get to the LinkedIn questions. How early in advance should you put the lead magnet starting prior to the live event? So kind of a similar question, but kind of the preceding thing.
Yeah, so that's actually a very, very good question. Who asked that, Mackenzie?
Yeah, that was Sylvia.
Sylvia. Okay, Sylvia, thank you for that. So Sylvia is asking like this part here. And Sylvia, you know what? This, I would say, generally speaking, we see, 4 to 3 weeks in advance of the event. And why do I say that? When you get people to download that asset, right? A percentage of them will, at that point in time, immediately sign up for the webinar. The majority, just the way it works in any kind of conversion that you look at, the majority do not. But now you have their email and you can begin a dialogue so that a week preceding the event or whatever you choose, whatever cadence you choose, you can drive them back to that registration. Does that make sense? So in this case, and for us, what we're doing, these are evergreen for us. These are always running at the top of the funnel. There's multiple assets always out there. And what we're changing, and I've got too much of this red on the screen now, what we're changing depending on what's going on is this right here, what's on this page, what's being promoted in that moment. Does that make sense, everyone? All right, Mackenzie, next question.
Yeah, so we had a good one from Ian over on LinkedIn. He's talking about some webinars that he wants to run. Okay. And here's the question. Would it be better to have one principal speaking for 30 minutes and then leave 30 minutes for questions, or to be more inclusive?
I don't know that there's a right answer to that. Ian, we have run a variety of different types of sessions. I think the way I would be able to better give you some input is from real life experience here on our side running these for us or for customers. And it would be easier for me to give you that input if you could tell me kind of what it is you hope to achieve with the webinar. What kind of webinar is it? What's the outcome you want to deliver to the audience? Ian, if you're still here, let us know what that is.
Yeah, so he wants to introduce and answer the affordable housing crisis. He wants to provide information of that to his people, to his audience. So they're developers, and they're developers, exactly. And so they want to introduce the answer to the affordable housing crisis.
Interesting. Okay, so I don't know what would be best for you, Ian. I think we would experiment if I were in your shoes or giving you guidance. What I would do is I would experiment with a variety of different formats. One is called a perfect webinar format. That would be very interesting to try. This is a model that breaks false beliefs that people might have about being able to purchase a home. There are a lot of false beliefs that people have in that regard, and the perfect webinar model kind of breaks those false beliefs and brings them to an epiphany around the 45-minute mark that makes them open to then hearing what you have to offer in terms of a next step. So, Ian, I would want to talk more about that. If you haven't yet put some time on the calendar, we'd be happy to talk that through with you. mindfiremarketing.com/yes. I see a number of people, Jerry and others who have submitted. Thank you for that. We'd love to get you there on the calendar. I see 4 people on that page right now, maybe 5. So if you haven't done it yet, Karen, I see you just did it. Thank you as well. She wants to produce and run webinars. What I want to do is engage interest, have conversations, build relationships, and create an engaged sales funnel. All perfect things for what we can do here with you.
Yeah, and
Mac,
just to,
go
I
ahead.
was just going to answer Ian's question again a little bit more. So if you're thinking about what format works for a webinar, one thing I would say and encourage you to do is test, right? We're here in this format because this is what works for us. We typically know how many minutes we need to allocate to Q&A. So test it a few different ones. And then after you test, ask your audience what they liked about it or how did they like fill in the blank. The other thing is, if there are common questions or a few common threads, as Dave was talking about, false beliefs about a topic, then typically that's a really good format is, okay, you know what? Usually a lot of people in this industry have this question or this fear. And there's a few of those. Those are the format that Dave just suggested is definitely a format you want to use because that allows you to speak one-to-one in a one-to-many fashion, answering those questions that are pretty common, right? So that's another tip there. Think about who your audience is and what they're trying to learn, right? Is there any common threads there?
Tamara over on LinkedIn said, we've done messaging programs to increase connections. Need help turning them into customers. Can you help with that? You know what kind of organization Tamara works for?
No.
Oh, it looks like Tamara, you just set some time on the calendar. Perfect. We can go through that with you. Happy to help.
Absolutely.
Happy to help with that.
Yep.
So Mackenzie, kind of piggybacking off of what you just said about major themes, do you see any additional major themes coming through? What else do people need to know from us that we can go through right now?
So I'm seeing, a lot about the pre-show, so the marketing up to it, how long are you doing it? That sort of thing, when do you use lead magnets? Not that much about the actual event itself.
Okay.
And then post-show, how do we turn those people into opportunities? I think that's really the key threads here.
Okay. I see a couple folks asking, Mackenzie, I don't know how many you see that are asking for more info around how we can help run these kinds of events. I see probably 7 or 8 folks that have asked for more information on that already. If you want to talk one-on-one about that, like I said, if you look at the URL down here, and Mackenzie, if you don't mind throwing that back in, if you want to know what we can do to help, how we can get you over that fear hump, if you will, how to ramp up what you're doing, Mackenzie will throw that link back in there. Let's set some time to talk about that. And I also want to pull back on the screen a couple of resources that we have for you. And I know I'm asking you or Mindfire team to do a lot, but let's make sure we're connected on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to help. We're happy to help you. Let's stay connected on LinkedIn. Mackenzie will throw back my profile URL there into the chat. If you're in the print community or any way related to print, join the COVID-19 print group. We want to make sure to see you there. And then if you're interested in talking and being on the list of folks that that are texting me, and John just picked up on the fact that I used the word polemic and sent me the definition. Yes, that is the correct definition. You're welcome. A new word for you, John. Maybe a new word. I like interesting words. I should have used a simpler word though. But there's my text, my cell phone number there on the screen. Text me like John's doing, and we can have a conversation there as well. And then if you want to know more about what it is that we offer, some of you are saying, I don't even know who Mindfire is. I pulled together a few things right here. We offer software that helps you extract and maximize your value from omnichannel marketing and sales. Right now, revenue recovery is a big thing for a lot of organizations, B2B and B2C, right? We have agencies here, we have printers here, we have B2B organizations, we have 501c3s, we have all types of different organizations here with us. and you're either looking for more customers or to regain revenue from this difficult year. And so we have programs, meaning solutions, services. We have software that helps you run that. We use what we call blueprints, omni-channel blueprints. You can see those here on the screen. Think of them like recipes, kind of like the framework that I showed you today, that are pre-built workflows, omni-channel workflows that help you achieve the objective that you're looking for, help you get there quicker. Point and click, drag and drop, create campaigns like the digital events that we're talking about today, manage all your stats, know what's going on, all your optimal channels. If you're B2B or B2C for that matter, and you need to keep track of leads and conversations as they're coming in, the system includes CRM to kind of help you do that as well. I mentioned the training that we provide. We have a 6-week course. Some of you actually here on the call are part of that course. Drop a yes in the chat if you're one of our, if you've been through that training. It's a 6-week course where we help leaders like you, marketing and sales professionals, learn how to apply omni-channel to your business. And we help you learn how to do that through content, how to distribute that content in the omni-channel model. Yeah, Michael's in that class. We help you improve your LinkedIn profile. As a B2B leader, sales, marketing professional, you're missing a lot of opportunities if you don't have your LinkedIn profile crafted correctly to attract your customers to you. We help you learn how to write content on LinkedIn that's going to bring folks to you, how to motivate the action that you're looking for, and a whole heck of a lot more. So this training is a training that we offer. Like I said, the print community is a big sector for us. Agencies, B2B marketers, if you're in marketing, if you're in sales, in leadership, basically anybody that's got a message who knows that the old ways are obsolete. And you kind of know why now. If you've been through this course today, through this workshop, you kind of have an inkling as to why things have changed. Some companies need us to run these campaigns for them. So we have services where we can do these campaigns with you, or we can do them for you, done with you. Mackenzie, I think that, content is king here in terms of adding value to one's market. And we hear a lot from folks like you who are here today with us that content is something that's hard for you to come by. It's a very expensive, kind of time consuming process to create high value content. So we also provide what we call content packs. And if you're in the print community, if you're in print services, for example, print broker, I see Tamara is a print broker over there. We actually have fully written campaigns, end to end, meaning all of the ebooks, lead magnets, all of the emails, the nurture sequence, all of the omni-channel workflow that you need, 85% done, so that you just come in and add your logo and your picture, your salesperson's picture, modify the content, change your company names, things like that, okay? So if you sell direct mail, as an example, I know we have direct mail folks here. We have a direct mail campaign we did in conjunction with the United States Postal Service. For the print brokers, for the folks that are in print, we have these sample request campaigns. So these are all turnkey things that we can help you implement. And then lastly here, won't spend too much more time. I want to get back to the questions. We also have inside of our software a aspect of it that allows you to go in and enter in keywords, things that are of interest you think to your market. And the system will find content that's already resonating with your market and give you a way to leverage that for yourself, to use that for your own lead generation. Don't have time to go into all the details, but that's also built in. If you want to find out more, we're happy to talk to you about that. And then lastly, if you're a service provider like a printer or an agency and you want to take the omni-channel model, the digital events that we're talking about today, and you want to create campaigns, you want to create sub-accounts for your clients, and you want to be able to run these kinds of campaigns for your clients, that's something that we can also train and equip you to do. I'm going to shut up. If any of that is of interest to you, mindfiremarketing.com/yes. And Mac, let's continue to hit the questions.
Yep. So we had one earlier that said, how many repeat businesses come back and what is the frequency of webinars? You want to take that?
How many repeat businesses come back, meaning to the webinar?
I think so. The way that I took the question was, when you run webinars so often, or
Yeah.
even if it's monthly or weekly, how many people are consistently coming back? So I answered, and this is for Karen, I answered that we're seeing a lot of people come back every single week.
Yep.
And I think it has to do with the topics and if it's resonating, right? So the goal is to do two things. Number one, coach or teach or educate or explain topics where a wide variety of people get value from it, right? So maybe some people are like, webinars, not for me. They don't show up today. But then we do another webinar on a topic that's specific, that's really that resonates with them, right? So again, wide variety of topics, and then get that marketed to people on a wide variety of channels, right? Opticasting it. We want people to be able to sign up from email, from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from YouTube, from anywhere else. So I think that people coming back to your webinars week after week has to do with A, are you talking about topics that resonate? And B, are you making sure that it's accessible for them to sign up and join? Jerry asks, how do you assemble your database and how do you acquire your database to market to people and actually, get people there?
Interesting. You want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring the flowchart back up here on the screen. Give me a moment. I'm going to scroll back and I'll bring it back up here on the screen. So there's a couple of ways that we do that. Who did you say asked that? Jerry? Is that right, Mackenzie?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Jerry, as I mentioned to you a second ago, if you look at this part of the workflow here, we typically have a number of lead magnet campaigns running at any one point in time, okay? Soliciting interest through things like email, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social channels. So these are constantly running, bringing new names into our database, okay? And so those are new folks that are getting added. And then we have, of course, existing that we've interfaced with in the past, maybe clients, prospects, others, within our database. So this is how the new names are coming in. And then we're using different targeting criteria to hit folks within our existing database to bring them to these events. Mackenzie, would you add anything to that?
Nope. That's sort of what I answered as well. But since I had typed it out, I want to get your perspective. Yeah, at the end of the day, we are marketing across a lot of different channels. And we're using as Dave mentioned, our capture leads landing to be able to start to capture people who are interested, build up your database. And then when you market to them, you've got them all there ready for you to be able to market to again.
So I want to ask everyone a question before we lose some of the folks that need to leave. And before we get to the next question, Mac, is that okay?
Do it.
Yeah. Okay. So Facebook, LinkedIn, listen up, and Zoom. Here's what I want to know from you. I asked you this question at the beginning today, but now that you've gone through all the material, what was the number one thing that stood out to you today? What was the unlock, Mackenzie's favorite phrase, the aha moment, the light bulb moment that you had where you're like, wow, hadn't considered that before. That was new for me. Please type that into the chat. Type that into Zoom. Type that into Facebook, type that into LinkedIn. I want to read some of those. If this has been valuable to you, this is kind of your thank you back to us. This is where we really get value, learning where it is that we've been able to make new brain connections for you. So Sylvia says the one click for the webinar. Is that what you mean, Sylvia? John, I guess yours was the word polemic, the new word for the day. Jill, increased friction, decreased conversion. That's right, Jill. All right, I want to hear from Facebook and LinkedIn. I want to hear from you folks. And if you're texting me, go ahead. Text me. I can see that as well. Who else? Alex, what was it for you? Anne-Marie, Amy, Chris, Chuck is here. Dimitri, Don. Alex is saying, getting feedback from prospects as to what to discuss. Yeah. Give them what they want, Alex. Yeah. Wafa, Sylvia answered. Let's see. Sandy, what about you, Paul? We've got a bunch of mics here. We have Marks, John, Jill, Jerry, JP, Irene, Greg, Gabriella, Enrique, Don. If I've given you a name, or if I've read your name, if I've given you a name, who am I to name you? If I've named you, please give me some feedback here. And I want to see that over there in LinkedIn and on Facebook as well. I want to make sure I hear from you. Okay? Don't be shy. And if nothing comes to mind, just say nothing comes to mind yet, but I want to know. Anne-Marie is saying still the percentage breakdown, 50, 10, and 40. That's what stuck with her, Mackenzie. Interesting.
Yep.
All right, keep that coming in.
We didn't One of the things we didn't mention, but I just thought about it as Anne-Marie said that, is on the slide where Dave had the behind the scenes look of the variety of screens that he had, there's one thing there that's really intentional that I want to draw your attention to. When you are hosting a webinar like Dave and I are doing right now, you'll notice that we say your names. And one of the things that we told you, yeah, there we go, the attendee list, the polls, and the chat. So I want to focus on the attendee list. Remember, we encouraged you to have your sales team sift through the list of registrants beforehand, right? So let's say 400 people register. Have your team, your sales team, your marketing team, your client success team, anyone who works with prospects or customers, go through that list. And what I want you to encourage them to do is annotate that list so that they identify key people. Maybe a salesperson on your team says, oh my gosh, that person signed up. That's my prospect. We're close to closing her or him. Or your client success team says, hey, that's one of our best clients that we work closely with. Or that's someone who, shoot, I've been prospecting into this company for 6 months and I haven't been able to get a response, and that person signed up to the webinar. Like, if you have that data as the presenter in the attendee list with those notes, you can make sure to draw a parallel to them, to call those people out, and also to have visibility, you know, like, hey, Anne-Marie, I know you're a great client of ours. We love working with you, right? Just that little extra personal touch in the communication as a presenter goes a long way. So while you're presenting, make sure you've got that.
Dara is saying 4-day webinar lead time was a takeaway. All of the above are great tips, especially decreased friction equals increased conversion. Alex saying engaging with viewers live is big.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't worry about having your whole program ready before you start promoting it. Yep. Jerry, I think that's across all marketing. We always say here, the best marketing is the marketing that gets out the door, right? If we're spending so much time and we're analysis paralysing it and it's not actually getting out there because we're worried about creating something perfect, then that's not helping you achieve your goals either, right? So we encourage you to do the thing, publish the post, create the webinar, pick up the phone, right? You want to actually be doing those actions.
I see Ian over on LinkedIn saying I could use this to generate pre-leasing, which gets project funding. Excellent. I'm hoping to see those wheels continue to turn for you, Ian, and the rest of you who are over there in LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Amy says, seeing the breakdown of how we put the webinar together and 1.5x energy as well. That was her unlock.
Who said the 1.5x energy?
Amy.
Amy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little odd at first, but you'll get it once you do it. Keep the questions coming, folks. And again, I put the URL here, mindfiremarketing.com/yes. Mackenzie, if you want to drop that in just one more time for everyone. Enrique says, I have a tip. We use a backdrop with the name of the company. It works well. So yeah, back here, is that what you're talking about, Enrique? Actually, we had somebody in yesterday's webinar say, hey, we're going to send you a backdrop. Would you put it up if we send it to you? I said, absolutely. And then someone offered me a beer and said, if I send you beer, will you take it? I said, absolutely.
And I'm hoping that someone offers us cold brew or
cold brew coffee. Shoes. Yep. Dara says, I'm interested in knowing more about the 6-week training. Okay, so that's what we had up here on the screen. If you have questions about that, happy to answer. Dar, if you want to set a time to talk about it, happy to chat about that. Dar, did you fill in the form yet? Just to put some time on the calendar. If not, click that link that Mackenzie sent. Let's see. Dimitri says, addressing the fatigue was key for me. Lots of suggestions to leverage. Thanks for the eagerly anticipated replay. Distill these for my customers. Dimitri, fantastic. I really sincerely hope you can use this for your customers, and I hope it brings you significant value. That's our goal. Dimitri says, got to run. Thanks a bunch. Dimitri, have a great rest of your day. Have a good weekend. Michael still waiting for the flavor, or was Shiner the answer? Michael, why don't you surprise me? I'm good with anything. Surprise me. Give me your best. So Dar, if you want to know more about the training, let me know if you have any questions specifically. We're happy to answer that. Or if you want to talk one-on-one, you have the link there. Mackenzie, what else did we miss here?
Just sifting through them. I feel like we've got, yep. Oh, there we go.
What's that?
Oh no, I'm just seeing you go through.
Oh yeah. I'm just
I didn't know
through.
if you were going to go to a specific topic based on someone.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So a lot of people are surprised, I think, by the breakdown of the time that you spend, which I think is kind of, it's kind of cool because there's really a few key milestones, right? Number one is you got to get people to the event, right? So in order to do that, the preceding thing is you got to get them registered. But I think the one thing that people forget is, okay, once they're registered, let's not take that registration for granted, right? Let's put ourselves in everyone else's shoes and remember they're busy, they have meetings, they've got work to do, right? So once they register, make sure that you're engaging them in high value conversations so that they're excited, that they're eager for that session and they actually show up. So that's number one, get people registered. Number two, get people there. Number three, have an awesome presentation that is engaging, that's exciting, where you're talking about something that's helpful to them and that you're passionate about. Number four, engage after the event to find out what they want more of, right? Again, notice how the theme is ask your audience, because they hold all the answers, right? And then number five is make sure that you've done all this work beforehand, during the event, and after it. Let's make sure that you get results, right? Get return on the investment that you made to run this event, right? And you want to do that by making sure that you are able to have those conversations, continue that conversation, get them the resources that they need, whatever the industry is that you serve.
Well said.
Don says, thank you for your time. Thank you, Don.
Yeah, you're welcome, Don. Pleasure. Hopefully this has been helpful to you, Don. We appreciate you being here. I'm going to call out a few more names. Giannis, Wafa, hopefully I pronounced your names correctly. Sylvia, any other questions, comments, anything else we can help you with? Sandy, Paul, Mike, Michael, a couple Michaels, Mark. I'm going to go back to the top of the list. Let's see, Anne-Marie, Chris, Chuck, Dar, I think you sent in a question. Don, I'm looking at Zoom over here. Who do we have over there in LinkedIn? Can you give me some likes or drop a comment, actually say I'm still here. If you're over there in LinkedIn and you can see me waving at you right now, and you should be able to see Mackenzie as well. I know Ian was over there. I think Ian, you might still be here. If you are, I'd love to hear from you. Any other questions? Anything else we can do to help? Mindfire team, I can see you all over here on the right-hand side. Anything else that we need to underscore for any of y'all? You like that, huh?
Love the statement. Best marketing is the marketing that gets out the door. Yes, Anne-Marie.
Definitely. Okay, Dar, I see you submitted a form. Thank you, Dar, for that. Mindfire team, if you can confirm, we've got Dar's form. Perfect. All right. And let's see.
Wafa has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You do it.
Wafa says, my question is, what is the ROI utilizing this service? So I think what you're saying, Wafa, is what's the return on running a digital event? Is that true? If so, I think that you need to first identify what's your goal with the digital event, right? Because without understanding the objective, then you can't necessarily understand the ROI. So if you are running a webinar that at the end of it, you sell something, let's just pretend you sell something, right? Then your ROI is how much time did you put into the event and how many sales did you make? But if you're using an event like this to engage with people and to teach them something, right? Maybe it's not a direct ROI of, oh, I got out X dollars at the other end, but maybe it's, hey, how many people are engaging with us? How many opportunities are you driving for your sales team? How many conversations is it creating? Long-term view, how much inbound inquiry are you getting on whatever the topics are? Oh, it says okay. What is the ROI of using your services? Not sure the investment of your software. Okay. Yeah. So Wafa, we can to that now or even on a one-on-one. I think ROI is dependent on what you're selling, what you're offering, right? Because if something costs you $2 and what you generate from it is 50 cents, right? It's dependent on what you offer and what you pay, right?
Wafa may be using that to mean like, what is the investment? Maybe that might be my guess of what Wafa's trying to say.
Oh, of our software?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we have a variety of different plans. as you know, we're all about omni-channel. So omni-channel means that we offer a variety of different channels that you can market on, right? So email, landing pages, SMS, ringless voicemail, all these different places in one software. And so the software is based on what support level. So it starts as low as $297 a month. And then it depends on how much usage you're using. So are you sending 1 million emails? Or are you sending 1,000 emails, right? Are you marketing to 50,000 contacts or 5,000 contacts? So it can start as low as $297 a month. And the pricing is dependent on the specific volumes that you're using, because at the end of the day, we don't want you paying for things that you're not actually using, right? We grow with you as you grow. Does that answer your question, Wafa?
I'm glad I understood Wafa and was able to get that answered there for you, hopefully.
Yes,
and then I see Ian is asking for the link to be able to set up a time to chat. Mackenzie, did you drop that into LinkedIn? I think I did. But I'm typing with my thumbs there, so I may have mangled it. If you could just do that for us, and I'll keep looking at the questions here. Wafa saying, what's the difference between yours and other competitors? Wafa, there's really a couple of different things that we would point out to you that distinguish us from the others. We focus in 3 areas. So we have omni-channel software, we have the training services that we talked about, and then we have an internal agency that runs omni-channel for clients, runs campaigns. So depending on which of those angles you're looking at, there's pros and cons of all different providers, right? But in our case specifically, the category that we play in is what we call omni-channel. And the difference between omni-channel and, let's say, traditional email or marketing automation is that we're going to help you and your organization find the channels that are best for your audience. And if you believe that times have changed and that what used to work, what even used to work last year, this isn't working the same way anymore, omni-channel is one of the ways that you can begin to get back into where you want to be, meaning find where your customer's attention is now. Is it in LinkedIn? Is it in Reddit? There are numerous locations where customer attention has now migrated. You need to reverse engineer back from there. And being able to do that at scale and manage communications out through those channels is not easy. You can do it one-on-one, but doing it at scale is not easy. That's what our software does. And so when you compare that to, for example, a marketing automation system that's usually email marketing automation, it's single channel, okay? Great solutions are out there. We work with a lot of great marketing automation solutions, but we're really in the omni-channel space, which is a completely different philosophy. Let's see. Anne-Marie says, I've used many solutions from XMPie to HubSpot, and Mindfire is the absolute best. Anne-Marie will be sending you the $100 later on. No, I'm kidding, folks. We didn't pay her to say that. Anne-Marie, very kind of you, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much for that kind statement. Wafa saying, what if you need an acquisition from no prior data? Wafa, I haven't paid you either, but that's another great point. So there's another aspect to our software which helps you find content, companies, and people in your target market. Now, you might say, why content? Well, we help you find content that resonates with your market that you can use to kind of leapfrog to being able to create content that's going to engage that market and bring them into your funnel, even if you don't have a list. That's a very common problem, and omni-channel has a solution for that.
Yes.
Sylvia says, thank you.
People at the top of the funnel.
Yep. Sylvia says, thank you, David and Mackenzie, for the great webinar. I must go now. Sylvia, thank you for your time. Appreciate you being here.
And thank you for engaging with us. We love that.
Yep. Did you drop that link in there too?
Yes, I did. And I tagged him. Ian?
Yeah, for Ian?
Yep, I tagged him.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome.
You don't see it?
I don't, but it could be that it's delayed. Alex says, thank you guys for the knowledge. Alex, you're welcome. We appreciate you being here. If you have to leave, just say goodbye there in the chat. We're sticking around for you if you have questions. Alex says, we'll look into using you guys. Thank you, Alex. Very, very kind of you. Michael says, I'm going to work on my campaigns. Awesome. Enrique says, thanks. Bye. Enrique, thank you. Wonderful. What are the questions you all have? I still see many of you here. I see you both in Zoom. I see you over in LinkedIn. I see you on Facebook. Jerry says, I'm looking forward to a more direct discussion. Fantastic. Jerry, did you, I think you filled in a form to set aside some time. Can you just confirm that? Talk to you again soon, Michael. Awesome. Anne-Marie says, I'm super excited. My colleague is on this webinar. So hello to Chris. Chris, you're Anne Marie's colleague. Welcome, Chris. Are you still here? Yeah, Chris Dahl is here. Yep. Awesome. Cool. And Jerry says I filled out the form. Dar says I need to leave as well. Great webinar. Ditto. Looking forward to ways to use your help. Dar, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks. We'll stick around another few minutes. Chris Dahl says I needed to park my car before I said goodbye. Wow.
All right.
That's cool. Chris,
Stay safe.
You have a self-driving car, don't you, Chris? Chris is like, no, I just crashed it. I'm just kidding. Well, thank you all for being here. I also
private messaged you, Ian, as well, because Dave said he didn't get the link, even though I sent it. So I just want to make sure you got it. So I also sent you a private message on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, Mackenzie, I say maybe another 20, 30 seconds here, see if anybody else says anything. We want to say thank you to all of you. I'm going to go ahead and put that link back there up on the screen just one more time in case anybody needs it. So you should be able to see mindfiremarketing.com/yes. If you're watching this video, if you're not here real time with me and you happen to be watching a video, this link should still work. If you want to set up a time to talk, we'd love to hear from you. All of the resources, all of the things that we've shared today, no matter when you happen to be seeing this, we'd love to talk to you more about it. Sandy says, another great webinar. Looking forward to the recordings. I came late to the party. Thank you. You're welcome, Sandy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Well, Mac, why don't you close us out today?
Yeah, just as Dave mentioned, thank you so much for spending your time with us. Our goal is always to be providing content to you that you find valuable, educational, and at the end of the day, helps you to achieve your goals and to accomplish all of the things that you want to do. So thank you so much for spending your time with us. If there is anything that we can do to better serve you, to help you, to give you motivation, whatever it is, we're here to support you. So we're here for you, and just please feel free to reach out to us. And we look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the day, and happy Thanksgiving to my friends here in the United States, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Have a great turkey day.
You got it right.
I got it right, finally. Yeah, we won't have a session next week. We won't be going live next week, but look for us the week after, and we can't wait to see you again. Yes. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, Matt.
Bye.
Bye.